Hi everyone, very good evening and welcome back to CrackGradeB. So in this particular lecture, we will be discussing the crossroads between two topics, that is RBI and the rural banking, right? We are going to see chronologically that what are the steps that RBI has taken for the development of rural banking in India. एग्रीकल्चर से रिलेटेड भी क्या स्टेप्स एंड ऑल लिए गए हैं and basically the focus is going to be on the rural banking side mostly, right? So let us see and let us start talking. See, यहाँ पे इस particular topic में the very important thing is the kind of steps or the kind of committees that have been set up by the RBI, in which year they have been set up, right? And what have been the role. Yes, we would be offering it, right? If you want more information onto this, then you can call on to the helpline number. They are going to guide you better, right? Because I'm in the mid of lecture, I cannot discuss it. I hope you'll understand. Chaliye. So let us talk about this RBI and the rural banking. The first and the foremost step was, see, agriculture credit. Before I do that, I would like to tell you one more thing, that agriculture and the rural credit, they are intertwined, right? Rural credit is a, what you can say, a broader concept, and agricultural credit is a sub part of it. Agriculture credit uska ek sub part hai. So a key sector of Indian economy, Reserve Bank of India has historically allocated a very much key priority to the agriculture when the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 came into the existence, right? It envisaged a special developmental role for the Reserve Bank in the sphere of agriculture credit with responsibility, and for specifically for seasonal operations as well as along with the marketing of crops. Now in that particular line, the first and the foremost thing that was done is Rural Banking Inquiry Committee, Thakurdas Committee. It was formulated in the year 1950. Okay? So whenever you read a committee's name, a committee is known by the name of its chairperson, right? Whosoever heads that particular committee. So आपको भी ये चीज याद रखनी है. When I'm talking about a committee over here, I will remember the committee by the name of the chairperson. So Rural Banking Inquiry Committee, Thakurdas Committee, it stressed the importance for an efficient system of agricultural finance, of a sound cooperative credit structure capable of developing close relations with the RBI, okay, close relations with the banks. So one thing that I would like to tell you over here is, see, cooperatives, we have seen the setup of cooperatives, right? That was not in detail, वो ज़्यादा detail में नहीं था, because in the subsequent classes we are going to discuss that in detail as well. First of all, that day we were discussing just the setup of rural finance, ठीक है? तो हम सिर्फ setup discuss कर रहे थे, and I could not discuss the what you can say nitty gritties of the topic, ठीक है? So cooperatives, regional rural bank, etc., they have been discussed in the setup related class. In the following classes we will discuss them in detail as well, ठीक है? उसको हम detail में भी discuss करेंगे. But as of now, यहाँ पर मैं क्या आपको बताना चाहती हूँ, in this particular topic I will specifically be talking about steps that RBI has taken in the field of rural banking, ठीक है? So हम सिर्फ उसी बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. So I hope the agenda of this particular class should be clear to you, right? There should not be any unrealistic expectations. So let us go back. So there was a Thakurdas committee. Now this paragraph stresses me or brings me to two particular points. Number one, the name of the committee and why it was set up, right? What was the point with which this committee was dealing? So the agenda of committee was sound cooperative credit structure which is capable of developing the close relations with the bank. That means what we wanted, that there should be layers of cooperative banking along with the commercial banking, ठीक है? commercial banking के साथ में भी cooperative banking की भी layers होनी चाहिए. Now moving ahead, post that, now this was something that was done in the 1950s. In 1951, what happened? The All India Rural Credit Survey was commissioned in the month of August 1951. Now this particular information is not necessary, ठीक है, जरूरी क्या है, that yes there was a rural credit survey conducted. See, 1951 depicts the year in which our nation got its independence, obviously. Sorry, 1947 is the year. Now it was very close by, right? Just 4 years after we have got the independence. So they really wanted to know that, okay, what is the credit structure in the rural India? How people are doing it and how we can make more good policies for the people. So that is why before making any sort of policies, survey is something which is very important. So this survey was conducted covering the 75 districts around the country. 8 villages they were chosen for the survey, which was based on sample of 15 households each and with a view to recommend practicable policies for the future on rural credit. Now this is something for which surveys are meant for. इसीलिए तो सर्वे होता है. So yes, what you have to remember that yes, there was a survey conducted under the aegis of RBI, All India Rural Credit Survey, when it was conducted in the year 1951. The agenda was how can we develop more policies for the development of rural credit structure. ठीक है, किस तरीके से हम और policies को develop कर सकते हैं. Moving ahead, obviously this survey indicated that Reserve Bank is going to occupy a strategic position in the cooperative credit sector, while other principal participants they are also going to play a major role in the rural cooperation. Now next, talking about the funds related thing. So National Agriculture Credit Long Term Operations Fund, right? This was set up in the year 1955. So here, name of the initiative, right? These are the things that we need to focus on. National Agriculture Credit Fund, Reserve Bank was authorized from time to time the purposes for which it would make the medium term loans. Now what was the timing for the loans? Medium term, right? Not for the short term, because obviously in order to get the returns you have to put the investment for a specific amount of time. So यहाँ पे medium term के लिए जो है loans दिए जा रहे थे. For what purposes loans would be provided or the credit would be provided, it would depend on RBI. ठीक है, that means the purposes for which this particular fund could have been used, it could have been told by the RBI only. Over the year, such loans were made to finance a wide range of investments related to rural sector. So again, in this particular thing, we have to remember that yes, National Agricultural Credit Fund was there. It was formulated in the year 1955. The next is the second best thing that you have to remember out of this particular paragraph. Third, the loans were provided for obviously long term. It has been given in the name itself, long to medium term. This was the timing for the loan, and who could specify the purposes? So the purposes specification was the power that was there with the RBI. ठीक है, RBI के साथ में ये power थी. Now next, State Bank of India. So State Bank of India, it was created in the year July 1955. So that, why it was created? So that we can give a boost to the direct flow of funds of the banking system into certain neglected but important sectors of the economy. For example, agriculture, right? Allied activities, एनिमल हस्बेंड्री हो गया आपका, पोल्ट्री हो गया आपका, सिल्क वॉर्म से रिलेटेड हो गया, राइट? अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट बी कीपिंग इज देयर. सो देयर आर सो मेनी अलाइड एक्टिविटीज along with the agriculture. They do provide income sources to the rural household, but at the end of the day they are not the ones who are able to receive what you can say funding for themselves. So I'll tell you one thing. I belong to a village area, and in my village there is one family which lives besides us, and that family keep goats as a form of investment, right? They purchase the goats, and for them it is like a fixed deposit. ठीक है, उनके लिए एक फिक्स डिपॉजिट की तरह ये एक्ट करता है. सो दिस इज हाउ सम पीपल इन द रूरल not some people, but yes, most of the people in the rural sector, they are dependent on allied activities, sometimes even more than the agriculture. Okay? So yes, it is important, and spread banking facilities in the rural areas. So this was the intention behind the setting up of State Bank of India in the year 1955. The flow of funds to the rural sector, it increased over the years. However, the demand for the productive investments was not fully met. So rural sector is something for which the demand is still not fully met, right? The level of demand is too much, and what you can say, the investment that is being made or the flow of funds that is going is still inadequate. So this was, they are talking in a historical sense, but even today it is not completely met. Sometimes there are a lot of problems, and collateral and the incapacity to pay is something which always comes in between. But for that also there is a correction, bank and SSG linkage, right? Self-help groups creation, Lakpati initiative, all of these, they are obviously trying to improve the rural society. Now in 1960s, we see the Committee on Cooperative Credit, right? Vaikunt Lal Mehta Committee. Again, what is important for us is the year of the formation, in which year committee was formulated, ठीक है, वो हमारे लिए जरूरी है. And after that we have to remember the name of the committee. So Vaikunt Lal Mehta Committee. Now from the name of committee only, it is clear to us that it has been formulated for the cooperative credit. See, you will see that the majority of RBI's initiative for the development of rural sector, they emanate by the development of cooperatives, right? Because cooperatives are such thing where the people come together, right? They give the lending to their members, and it is like generating a productive source. ठीक है, खुद ही पैसा जमा करना. They are what you can say responsible for saving and then providing the credit, right? So it does what you can say leads to financial inclusion as well. So what does this committee told us? So this committee advised examining the possibility of using PL 480 funds to finance the long-term productive investments in the agriculture. Now PL 480, this was the program between the India and USA, right? And this was because we will see in the year 1960s and in the upcoming year, India was seriously having the shortage of food, right? The grains, etc. And we were import dependent for food at that particular time. We were not self-sufficient. So this particular committee suggested that the funds that we are getting for consumption, why don't we invest those particular funds in the agriculture investment, right? So consequently, the Reserve Bank and the government, they began to think, create a specialized agency to finance the agriculture investment. Now you see, it is giving a hint towards the future. So RBI and government thought that we should be having a particular what you can say entity that could finance the agriculture investment. It was thought that the demand for agriculture credit, it might require establishment of some specialized institutions which will ultimately relieve the Reserve Bank of its function. So after this particular discussion, what we found was this. ठीक है, इस डिस्कशन के बाद में we see Agriculture Finance Corporation Refinance Corporation Bill 1962 came into existence, and it received the President's assent in March 1963. The corporation, under the chairmanship of D.G. Karve, the then Deputy Governor, started its operations in Bombay. The corporation took up a wide range of activities for the rural sector, for refinancing, giving the direct loans, subscriptions to fully guaranteed debentures of eligible institutions, covering central and mortgage banks, state cooperative banks, scheduled commercial banks, and the cooperative societies under the approval of the Reserve Bank, right? So this particular entity, it not only refinance, see, by giving the refinance, what you are enabling the institutions that they can further provide the credit to the rural sector. Rural sector को वो और credit जो है दे सकते हैं, right? So this was the intention of your Agriculture Refinance Corporation Bill. You have to remember then when this particular corporation was formulated, right? Who was the first chairman? So these are the important things that you need to remember. Now please give me a moment. Yes. Now, post Agriculture Refinance Corporation Bill, what is the second thing that we see is in July 1966, the All India Rural Credit Review Committee, again it was formulated, and this time Venkatapaya Committee, the name was given to this particular committee, and obviously whosoever is the chairman, this is how committees get their name. ठीक है, इनको अपना नाम अपने chairman के नाम से मिलता है. So it was formulated so that they can review what is the progress is there in the credit supply for the agricultural production, right? So the year of the committee formation, the name of the committee, and intention of the committee is something that you need to remember. Marketing from all the institutional sources, it includes commercial banks, how the crop loans are working, what has been the progress of rural branches of commercial bank, whether there are ample amount of branches of the commercial banks are there or not. Now you see the time of formation of the committee is 1966. In 1969 we will see that some drastic steps have been taken. ठीक है, पहले review किया गया that okay what is what you can say, what is this right now condition of the rural credit, and post that how the commercial banks are performing, have they opened sufficient rural branches or not, right? So once all these things are clear, after that it was decided that okay we need to nationalize few of the banks, right? So, and coordination between the different agencies which are involved in the rural credit. Now, the adoption of social control as a policy measure in 1968, it helped the RBI to motivate the commercial banks into the area of agriculture as well as the rural credit. See, whenever an entity is operating, they should always have a social focus as well. Social focus का मतलब when you are operating in the country, when you are making profit out of the resources, then you have got certain social responsibilities as well. ठीक है, आपकी कुछ social responsibilities भी होती हैं that you need to fulfill. Okay, so the National Credit Council, it constituted in December 1967, recognized the importance of commercial banks' role as complementary to cooperative initiative, right? So this was identified. Now the question remained हाउ टू नज. ठीक है, अब हमें ये तो पता चल गया कि ठीक है कमर्शियल बैंक्स जितने कोऑपरेटिव्स इंपॉर्टेंट है, कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स उतने ही कमर्शियल बैंक भी हमारे लिए जरूरी थे. बट at back in the time in 1960s, 1960s and 1970s, the commercial banks were truly into profit making. They are right now also in the profit making, but they are also fulfilling their social responsibilities. But back in the time there were no guidelines regarding that, right? And they were generally not concerned about it. So isi ke liye there are the steps that were taken. What were the steps? So nationalization of the 14 major commercial banks in July 1969, it helped the orientation of commercial banks, lending policies and procedures to meet the requirement of priority sectors of the economy. So this is how the banks were nudged, right? They were nationalized, and this is how RBI shifted the attention towards the rural sector or the priority sector as well. The multi-agency approach, it covered the lead bank scheme. Just, I guess, 2 days back we discussed the lead bank scheme, right? It provided the boost to improved flow of funds to agriculture sector through organized credit channels, right? Agriculture sector got the place of importance in the priority sector. Realistic targets for deposits for the central cooperative banks, they were attempted. Borrowing needs, consequently, from the Reserve Bank, they were met at differential rate of interest, right? So, if there was any need of funds, RBI fulfilled it, but at the different interest rates, right? So, if I talk about in the present sense, we have different kinds of rates at which RBI provides the funding to the bank. For example, at repo rate, marginal standing facility, right? Apart from that, standing deposit facility, reverse repo rate. So these are the few tools at which what you can say RBI provides fund. Please remove the standing deposit facility and reverse repo rate, because at that particular rate RBI takes up the funds, but in the other three RBI gives up the funds, right? So, by mid 1977, the scheme of financing primarily agriculture credit society is what it was in operation in 12 states. 24 commercial banks through 604 branches, they have taken over 343 societies for financing primary agriculture credit society. This is the most grassroots level of cooperative structure, ठीक है, सबसे नीचे यही आता है. And post that, over the years, it was found out that the experience with the working of scheme generally was not satisfactory. Okay, then what were the corrective steps that were taken? If the results were not so much satisfactory, इतने ज़्यादा satisfactory नहीं थे, तो क्या steps लिया गया उसके लिए? So Reserve Bank of India, they appointed a committee to review arrangements for the institutional credit for agriculture and rural development. This particular committee was chaired by B. Sivaram, right? So this is an important committee. You will know why. So this particular committee, what it said, he was a former secretary of Ministry of Agriculture in 1979, and the report was submitted in the year 1981, and it recommended the setting up of NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. See, we nationalized the bank. We thought that it is going to work with the combination of what you can say the banks as well as the cooperative banks. RBI really thought that this combination is going to work, but that combination did not yield so many positive results. So then it was identified ki nahi, we are going to need a specific organization as well, and that is where the NABARD came into existence. So it came into existence in the year July 1982. Okay. It came into existence in the July 1982. All major rural credit related works from the RBI, they were shifted to NABARD. Works related to urban cooperative banks, they remained with the Reserve Bank, right? So urban cooperative bank is something which is catered by the RBI, and the remaining functions they are taken up by the NABARD as well. A new department as Rural Planning and Credit Department, it was set up in the Reserve Bank to look into the broad rural credit policies of Reserve Bank as a part of all monetary management of the economy for the price stability with sustainable growth. Now we are going to see what is the Rural Planning and Credit Department did, right? What was the role of it? So Ajay, I would suggest you that please talk on this topic by calling on to the helpline number, right? I cannot discuss such kind of things when I am into a lecture, so I hope you'll understand. Chaliye, next thing, let's see. So, Rural Planning and Credit Department of RBI, we are going to see this. What it did, right? What are the things under it, and how it helped us in the, what you can say, development of rural credit. So, rural planning and the credit department, it formulates the policies regarding to rural credit, right? And it monitors timely and adequate flow of credit to the rural population for agricultural activities, rural employment, programs. Okay, it also formulates policies related to priority sector, for example agriculture, small scale industry, tiny and village industries, right, artisans and retail traders, professional and self-employed persons, state sponsored organizations for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes likewise. Okay, there are some government sponsored credit linked programs as well, जैसे कि स्वर्ण जयंती ग्राम स्वरोजगार योजना, Prime Minister रोजगार योजना. It implements and monitors the lead bank scheme as well, which is aimed at forging the coordinated approach for providing the bank credit for the overall development. The department also sees the implementation of banking ombudsman scheme and setting up of local area banks. So these are the intentions of this particular department. Now we are going to see the priority sector lending by the commercial banks that are there. So targets and sub-targets also, this is not in detail but just a glimpse of it. Domestic banks 40% of the net bank credit, foreign banks 32% of the net bank credit, advances to the agriculture 18%, 10% to the weaker section, and export finance also needs to be provided. So broadly, the activities and the purposes which are financed by the banks included in the priority sector lending are, just wait for a second. Yes. So broadly, the purposes and the activities which are financed by the priority sector lending are, so wait for a second. Yes, so activities, agriculture, small scale industry. Now these are the sectors which are involved in the priority sector, right? Small roads and water transport operators, this is also included. Retail traders, small business operators, professional and self-employed persons, state sponsored organization for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Educational loans, they are also considered under the priority sector. Housing up to 0.5 million in rural and semi-urban areas. Consumption loans for the weaker section, self-help group, non-government organization, food and agro-based processing sector, and investment in the venture capital. Now this is something which changes as per the situation, right? Whatever situation demands, then RBI and the government takes a note of it, and that is how the things are included and excluded out of the priority sector. The categories of borrowers which are generally taken as a weaker section is small and marginal farmers with land holding for 5 acres and less, landless laborers, tenant farmers, artisans, village and cottage industries where the individual credit requirement do not exceed 25,000. Beneficiaries of Integrated Rural Development Program, Scheme for the Urban Micro Enterprises, and Scheme for the Liberation and Rehabilitation of the Scavengers, right? So all those beneficiaries which are there under these kind of programs, they will be considered as a weaker section. And lastly, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, beneficiary under differential rate of interest scheme, and the self-help groups. Now, this is not the total of priority sector, right? There are a lot of updates, there are a lot of new things related to the priority sector that we are going to see in a very specific chapter related to priority sector. This has been the historical data, how the RBI has progressed related to rural banking, right? किस तरीके से what have been the steps that are taken by the RBI related to rural credit structure, how the department was set up, what was the mandate given to the rural and agriculture department of RBI. So this whole chapter was regarding that. I hope you would have understood the important committee's name, the year of their formation and the intention chronologically. So this was the total thing that I wanted to discuss under this chapter. In the next chapter, we are going to see more layers about the rural finance. If you did understood this particular chapter, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, and thank you so much for joining in.